The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
I'd like to welcome you back to another segment of our TV show, Living United with Nashua Business. This is a show where we will interview people from the local community, business owners, community leaders, about their activities and involvement with the local community and how they give back both individually and through their organization. So today we have with us Bob Mack. Bob Mack works for the city of Nashua. He is the welfare officer for the city. And I always say, in truth in advertising here, so people know, why are we here? Is there a relationship? Bob is also on the United Way board and has been, you were saying, for 9 years.
It's been about 9 years. I've been involved with United Way longer than that, but
so you started,
formally a part of the board about 9 years ago.
So you started when you were like 8 years old or something like that.
Oh, thanks, Mike. Thanks.
And also Bob's on our executive board and is our current board secretary.
Yes.
And by the way, I need to say publicly, thank you for that, because as the secretary, it's so great that you take the minutes and I don't have to worry about that. So that's awesome.
Well, you fill in the gaps for me. So that's a good
but
thing.
It's very helpful. Yeah. You know that. So anyway, well, welcome.
Thank you.
So, just before we start talking about philanthropy and giving back and being involved in the community, I just want to talk about, sort of personal stuff. What's the story of Bob, Where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school?
Yeah.
Wife, kids, all of that kind of stuff.
Sure. Well, I am one of those Nashua natives.
Yeah.
I was born and raised in Nashua at what was then Memorial Hospital. Went through the school system here
Southern
in Nashua.
New Hampshire for
Southern
people
New Hampshire
like me
Medical Center. Yeah.
Like me from away.
Yes. It was. Sometimes I still call it Memorial because that's what we called it. But so again, I grew up in Nashua. Was raised by my parents who moved to Nashua from Vermont 50 some odd years ago.
We're in Vermont.
So they were in Rutland, Windsor area.
Yeah. Northeast Kingdom.
Yeah, it's actually beautiful up there.
It is beautiful up there.
They came down for their opportunity and raised myself and my 3 siblings. And then I met my wife in high school. We got married, had 4 daughters who are now 3 in college and 1 a sophomore in high school. So time flies.
That's amazing, and it's so true. Time does fly. It's always so cliche, right? But
it is.
But it's amazing. You blink your eyes, and wow, you've got like adults in your midst.
Right, and so, I've seen a lot of change in the city over the years that I've been living here, and we made a big move to Mack, New Hampshire for a few years, and then decided to move back into the city.
Oh, adventurous
for services. Yeah, big adventure. So.
It's interesting you say you've seen a lot of change over the years, and I have had a couple of folks on the show who are native Nashuans. Mark Barabee was with me, and of course he's like 4th generation Nashuan. But so in your life, in growing up here, what would you say, what are the things that stand out for you as things that have changed in our community?
Well, it's grown tremendously. The school department has grown. When I went to school, there was just 1 high school. Now we have, of course, the 2 high schools. Have just seen growth in retail. The Pheasant Lane Mall came into existence during that time. I just the traffic. I remember when there wasn't a stoplight near my road and on Dublin Ave and Broad Street, and then they put that stoplight in. That was like a big deal. And times have changed. And they were talking about the Broad Street Parkway way back when. And now to see a lot of that come to fruition, it's exciting. And hopefully, I mean, I think there's more to come as far as the economy goes and different things within the community.
Yeah, that's true. We haven't been in here long enough really to see a lot of those kinds of changes. But I do recall when we first moved to the area, we moved here when my daughter was 4 years old, so about 18 years ago. And originally we lived in Brookline. But when I was interviewing here for my job, the people who I was interviewing with took us around and gave us the grand tour of Nashua. We were living in Dallas at the time, so we weren't super impressed, I have to be honest. The grand tour was a little bit less than exciting, but we went to Michael Timothy's, which is now MT's local bistro is Michael Timothy's. And we went to the Pheasant Lane Mall, and they were so excited to show us the Pheasant Lane Mall. Yeah. If you've been to Dallas, there's like a mall like the Pheasant Lane Mall on pretty much every corner.
Yes.
So we tried to be very gracious and say that's great and awesome. But what we really liked was that there wasn't a lot of that.
Yeah.
And it still had, there was still a small town community feel to Nashua. I think some of that still exists.
Yeah, you have a lot of the amenities of a larger community, but it still has kind of a town feel to it, which is nice.
Absolutely. I agree. So so when you went to college, what did you study?
I studied, first I got involved in business, and then I took a psychology gen ed course, and that was more interesting to me than the business end of it. So I focused on psychology and ended up majoring in psychology, minored in business. And that kind of moved me into my career of working with folks with mental health issues. I worked for a brief stint at the high school as a teacher's aide, but then I moved into doing case management work, social work, through what was then Community Council, which is now Greater Nashua Mental Health Center. And I worked there for about 8 or 9 years, doing various things, case management, running some housing programs, and then moved on to another job running housing programs down in Massachusetts. Saw that there was a big difference between how they ran things down in Massachusetts and was looking to get back into New Hampshire. And that's when I found the job as the welfare officer with the city of Nashua.
How long have you been doing that?
It will be 15 years this month.
So what does the day in the life of a welfare officer look like?
That's a great question.
It's a
Interesting
complicated
question.
job, I know that.
Well, it can be. And that's another area I've seen a lot of change, because when I first started with the city, we had a rather small department. There was just myself, another caseworker, and a couple of support staff. We've grown to about 7. We have 7 staff now. We have 3 case technicians, a senior case technician, and myself who can see clients, and then an intake worker and an admin support person. So we've grown considerably in that regard. But in doing so, we've been able to actually help more people. Because we were seeing a lot of people 15 years ago, but we had challenges really spending a lot of time working with them and connecting them to other resources in the community. That's one of our main focuses. It's not just assessing and assisting people financially, which is one of the things that we do, but really connecting them to other resources for longer term sustenance. So, so a day in the life is we have people come in that are in need. They have a need for maybe some rental assistance. They're under some sort of eviction situation. They may have a utility disconnect notice. They may have just lost a job, which is why they're falling behind. They may have had some unexpected car repair. They've been living paycheck to paycheck to paycheck, so an expense like that really puts them back. We have them come in, they apply, they show verification that they're living in Nashua, they show verification of income versus expenses, and we do an assessment based on some guidelines. And we operate under a state statute, RSA 165, which tells us that each municipality must assist folks in these certain situations. We determine that eligibility, and we determine if we need to assist or can they get assistance somewhere else. If we need to assist, we provide that assistance to the vendor, if you will, maybe directly to a landlord or a utility company. We don't provide any cash assistance or anything like that, but we assist them through that voucher system and then refer them to other resources if they need them, or they just kind of go on their way.
So it sounds like a lot of what you do is really help people not to fall through the cracks.
That's what we try to do, and sustain them, help them move forward. That's a lot of what the caseworkers do, the case technicians do. They're doing a lot more of the frontline direct service. We got some great people working in the office. They are very caring, and they really do a good job assessing the need. And again, sometimes we can't help people, but if we can at least connect them to a community resource,
right,
they can leave at least with some hope, and they can get their issue resolved. So some of the things I do, I spend a lot more of my time in meetings and trying to maintain connections and develop resources in the community. One of the committees that I'm part of is the Greater Nashua Continuum of Care, which I know that you also participate in, which is a group of 35 plus some odd nonprofits in the community, the Greater Nashua community, and just concerned citizens as well, that meet on a monthly basis to deal with issues related to homelessness and folks that are at risk of homelessness. Mm-hmm. Working closely with those partner agencies has proven very productive over the years. And
I can't agree, could not agree more. That is, it's really, for me, very gratifying to go to those meetings where you have folks from a variety of different nonprofits that are really working very collaboratively with one another.
Yes.
You can see how there's the potential for people to get kind of parochial and sort of siloed, and they don't do that. They really work well together.
No.
And that's, I think people in Nashua can be very proud of that, actually.
Yeah, I would agree, and that's something that we've been very good at for as long as I've been involved with that organization, that group.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of great work that goes on in Nashua, and there's a lot of organizations, and they do work collaboratively. We all have pretty much the same goal.
Right.
And we have different resources and skills and specialties to help people get to those points.
So for me, the interesting thing, Bob, is what you do for your job day in and day out is what a lot of other people actually would dabble in, from a philanthropic point of view to maybe get involved as a volunteer. But, you do this full time. This is your work. So what motivates you then to go above and beyond and get involved with an organization like United Way? Because your day job is already doing a lot of that, and it seems to me that, well, you're just a glutton for punishment there, my friend.
Well,
and because I know that you do not look at your work at United Way as work. You look at this also as a way of giving back.
Well, and I think all of the people that are involved with United Way on the board and whatnot that participate kind of look at it that way. It's a way to give back to the community from whatever perspective.
They aren't doing the work you're doing.
Well, I did have a different perspective, and that's kind of how I got involved, because it was through the work on the Continuum of Care, and I got invited to participate in some of the community assessment activities because I kind of had my finger on the pulse of what was happening in the community and worked with a lot of those agencies. And then after doing that for a couple of years, was invited to join the board, and I was very open to that opportunity because I saw the work that United Way was doing and the impact with some of the agencies, helping to support some of the agencies that operate within our community. So it seemed kind of like a natural fit, if you will.
I would also say that you are part of a department that has a lot of volunteers and people who do naturally give back. And maybe it's even worth talking about a little bit of that. You've got Bobby Bagley, who's involved in the community in a lot of different ways beyond her day job. You've got Allie McKnight. You can just kind of go down the list. It's kind of part of the culture of your department, it seems, as well.
Well, I think people that get into the social service arena, they do it, they have a desire to do that sort of thing, to impact people's lives.
Right.
And that may sound kind of corny, but that's really what it is. You want to help people make a difference in their lives, and there are important issues. And if you get to work on those issues as a job, it kind of has a good feeling.
Yeah. Well, that's true.
It's
true. So what's the big problem? What's the one thing that if you could solve it, you could wave a magic wand?
The one thing.
Yeah. I bet you it has something to do with housing, but I'm just going to just
Well,
throw it
yeah,
out there.
that's exactly what I was thinking. That is our largest area for general assistance provided through my department. That's the largest area that we assist with the most is eviction prevention, homeless prevention. Because the cost of housing it's great. It's the HUD looks at subsidizing people so that they only have to pay 30% of their income towards their housing cost. But that's not very realistic these days.
Yeah, I was at a housing briefing put out by the New Hampshire Housing Authority today. Somebody said something along the lines of median rental in New Hampshire. This is New Hampshire, not just our area.
Yeah.
Our area is actually worse.
Right.
The median rental is close to $1,300 a month. The average renter earns $14 an hour.
Yeah.
The vacancy rate is less than 2%.
Yes.
So you add all that up, and that is a very scary picture. It
Right.
means
Right.
people who live here can't afford to work here, or work here can't afford to live here.
Right.
It affects workforce. It affects homelessness. It affects so many different areas.
Absolutely. And we get people connected to programs. People that are homeless, we get them into shelter programs. They may get them connected to transitional housing programs, but then it's getting them to that next point. And that's part of the issue that we face on a regular basis is where do they go next? And we talk about a continuum of care, and you want to continue down this path to get to the next step, and it's not always easy to get to that affordable housing step. Because you're right on point. The cost of rents are high, and a lot of people in the working class can't afford some of those rents.
And as easy as I know that it's probably not politically correct to say that the answer isn't raising the minimum wage. Would it be helpful to a lot of people in a lot of ways to raise the minimum wage or to raise wages? Yes, but natural law of supply and demand is going to say that with wages, rentals are going to go up.
Right.
And
If people are making more
change-
money, they're going to be expected to pay more money for
It's
that.
really
that area.
capacity.
Yeah.
It's really available housing stock.
And it's a very complex issue. A lot of it could be related to the mortgage industry, the banking industry, the cost of housing, the cost to build new housing, the types of housing that's being built. So there are so many factors that are involved. It's a very complex issue. And kind of getting back to some of the agencies and organizations we work with, they try to apply for funding to help support the rent and supplement the rent on a consistent basis so that some of these folks that are working class or some folks that have disabilities that can't work have a safe and secure place to live, because that's really one of those basic needs. When you look at that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that's it. Housing. If you don't have safe, secure housing, not much else matters.
That's true. So what have been some of the wins that people might not know about, things that have gone well the last couple of years that might not be apparent to Joe Citizen or Jane Citizen, but you see?
Well, it kind of goes back to the collaborative work that you touched upon earlier, and the organizations that we work with, and they've been able to apply for different programs and different funding. There's been a lot of support for veterans in our community. We've virtually ended veterans homelessness in our community. And a lot of that work has come through Harbor Homes and some other organizations that have applied for the funding and work very closely with our veterans in our community to make sure they're connected to different programs and resources. So I think that's a success. We just recently heard that we were fully funded for our Supernova funds, the HUD funds that come into our community to help support some of those housing programs. And when you allow people to be able to sustain that housing, they can move on to do other things for themselves. So those are a couple of successes. There's a lot of work going on at the Division of Public Health and Community Services that you mentioned, a lot of great people working there that are doing a lot of great things. There's been a lot of focus on the opioid crisis and substance misuse issues, and there's a lot of education and services being developed in our community as we speak. So there are a lot of different things going on, and I think that coordinating those efforts, I've seen some positive movement in coordinating those efforts and different agencies working together in the community.
Right. Well, I know that Mayor Donchis has been very, not just supportive of those efforts, but also has pretty insistent on people need to be working together and working collaboratively and not just shooting off and doing their own thing. And that makes a big difference.
Yeah. Leadership from the top is key.
Yeah, absolutely. It most certainly is. Other things you might get involved with? In your personal life? What else do you do? What else do you do? Come on.
Well,
you must do something.
What else do I do? I like to play golf, but this isn't golf season. So
yeah, that's true.
But it's just, having 4 kids, that takes up a little bit of time. Enjoy watching my younger one play basketball. And we were talking a little bit earlier about swimming. I don't have any swimmers anymore, but that can take up a weekend, no doubt about that.
Yeah, or more than one.
So as they age out of those things, you do find you have more free time. So, but it's, just staying connected to the community is important. Working through the city with the partners that we've established, the partnerships we've established. There's always a new issue that seems to come down the pipe.
I know your department is involved with this. I know as a whole, but I don't know that the welfare side of the department is involved. Are you going to be involved in any way, shape, or form with the medical van that's being outfitted by St. Joe's?
We will probably not be directly involved with being on that van. That van will be doing a lot of medical outreach throughout Nashua and surrounding communities. I think that's a great opportunity. It kind of ties into kind of a holistic approach to wellness. I think that's one of the things that the welfare department tries to do. Is, if we're working with folks and we notice something that's outside of our realm, we try to make that connection to the appropriate resource. That being said, I think while that van is out doing their primary health issues and whatnot, if they identify something with a patient, they can have the resource to try to connect them to other resources. So, again, we won't be going out on the van, if you will.
But you'll probably get more referrals and connections through that.
We could, and our primary responsibility is to people in Nashua. Each municipality is required to have a welfare office. So part of it will be having the knowledge of where those resources are when the nurses and whatnot are out on the van, and make an assessment and knowing where do I send those people if they have some additional needs that we're not addressing primarily here, but they're important to the holistic wellness of the patient.
I know we're very excited about that new resource coming to the community, and we're proud to be one of the funders for that project. So that's going to be exciting. I should also, while I have you, congratulate you. You and your department recently. Well, we just recently had our annual campaign with the city and the school district for Nashua wide, and folks generally won't know this, but your department had the highest percentage of participants in the campaign. And of course, it's an all voluntary thing. A person can decide give or not to give, and if they decide to give, how much to give. That's all sort of under the radar. But 44% of your department participated,
Yeah.
which is really a remarkable,
Yeah.
really remarkable number. So,
Well, it's a great division, as you said, and the people, they like to give back. It's kind of in their nature to do that. And I think they were excited to hear that we won the
well, they might not next
recognition
year.
and the sweet night. But
Well, Bicentennial School was second place, right? They got
Yeah.
40%, and they won last year.
sure.
So their person who coordinates their campaign is very competitive, and I know that your boss Bobby is
Well,
also very competitive.
yes, Bobby Bagley is very excited about next year's campaign already, and she wants to
What?
get that percentage up.
Maybe
so.
I should suggest to them that if they want, they can run another campaign, like a supplemental campaign or something like that. We'll do 2 this year. But it's nice to really see our city employees, including in the schools and in the city departments. They give back day in and day out in their jobs, but they also don't stop there, and they give back to their community as volunteers and as donors, and not just with United Way, but with many other organizations. And I think anybody who's watching this and hears that story should be proud of what we've got here.
Yeah.
It's really pretty impressive.
Well, we work with a lot of those communities, community partners, those agencies, to get our clients and patients connected to resources. And we were talking a little earlier about the role that United Way has taken in convening and being a participant in a lot of those planning meetings and community meetings. And that's very important and very valuable. And then to be able to raise money to then distribute to a lot of those organizations and agencies and those programs that are helping the very people that we serve, that's important to us.
Yeah. Well, I know that it is, and it's obvious that it is. So we're coming almost to the end of our segment. I did bring you a gift, though.
Oh.
So normally, when I have the standard T-shirt and Day of Caring water bottle, I know that you have those.
I got a
multiple copies. So I brought you something different. I brought you a United Way swag essentials
Wow.
package, starting with a wristband.
Oh, all right.
Which
Excellent.
I don't think you have.
I don't have one of these, no.
And then but wait, there's more. This is like on the Ron Popeil show, right? So, and a pen from United Way
very nice.
with a little stylus
Oh,
thing
yeah,
on the top.
I like these.
So you don't mess up your iPhone. And of course, a lanyard for your badge, for your city badge, a badge holder. And if you don't want to put your badge on it, you can clip your new United Way water bottle on.
Very nice.
So it's like a swag essentials.
Well, this
for
is
United
great.
Way.
I'm guessing one of my girls will scoff this, though.
Possibly.
They
You
take this.
never know. And maybe the wristband, you never know. But Bob,
Excellent.
I appreciate you coming on today, sharing your story a little bit, everything you do for the city and everything you do for United Way. It takes volunteers to make an organization like this run, and we appreciate it. So
Well, thanks for having me on, Mike.
thank you very much.
All right. Appreciate it.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.